Hey y'all, I'm Dee Dee. Welcome to my channel, Bible Pixie. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today, I want to tell you a story. This story is about a potter and his clay. Now, this clay that he had wasn't any ordinary clay. This was special clay. It was magic clay. This clay had a mind of its own, free will, so to speak. So one day, the potter decided that he wanted to make a certain type of vessel. Maybe it was a vase or a cup. So the potter took a portion of the clay and he started to mold it on the wheel. He added the water and gently sculpted it and started to do all the things that a potter normally does with his clay. And because the clay had a mind of its own, sometimes the clay didn't really like that. Sometimes the clay didn't like the pressure that the potter was applying to it or the shape that he was making the clay into. So the clay, not wanting to do what the potter wanted, sometimes would jump off the wheel, roll off the table and onto the floor. And the potter, ever so gently, would pick the clay back up, pick out all the pieces of debris and hair and things that it collected while rolling on the floor, and ever so gently started to reshape the clay. Well, sometimes the clay didn't like that either. The direction that the potter was going in, the pressure, something was always off and that he didn't like. So again, the clay would jump off of the wheel, roll across the table, onto the floor. Sometimes he would roll far enough to kind of get lost from the potter. And sometimes the clay would get stuck in creases and crevices and start to dry out. And then became very sad because he thought, what use am I now? I'm all dried out. I can't be shaped and molded. But the potter, ever patient, he would find the clay, bring it back to the wheel, add water to it, pick out the debris, brush it off, and start to reshape it again. No matter how many times that the clay didn't like what the potter was doing, didn't agree with it, didn't want to bend or yield to the potter's direction, and would jump off the wheel, roll off the table, roll across the floor, the potter would always go after the clay. Now, sometimes the potter wouldn't do this right away. Sometimes he would let the clay sit there and think about what he had done or give him time, just be patient with him. But the potter would always go back for the clay. And even when the clay thought he was all dried out and couldn't be of any use to the potter knew what to do to bring the clay back. As long as the clay had not gone through the kiln, as long as it had not been fired, the potter could always add moisture back into it and mold and make the clay into whatever he wanted. Now, sometimes this clay that didn't want to yield to what the potter wanted would roll away and find himself in the kiln and be fired and would harden into something that was not usable. And after coming out of the kiln, it might still just be a lump of clay, or it might be a vessel with a hole in it, and think that it was totally broken and useless. But even pottery that's been fired has a use. It may not be a perfect vessel, but the pottery shards can always be used for things. The pottery can always be broken back down into dust, and it can be used in future pottery. No matter how many times that we take ourselves out of God's hands the potter's hands, we still have a use. As long as we haven't hardened our hearts so much that we can no longer be used, that God puts us on a shelf, there's still a chance. No matter how many times we fall into the floor, no matter how many times we've told him no, no matter how many times we have gone against his direction or not yielded to his molding, there's always a chance. All we've got to do is trust the process. We go to God and we repent for our stubborn free will, for doing it our own way, for taking things into our own hands. And we repent and we allow God to mold us and shape us. Oftentimes the process is not easy, it's not comfortable. It comes with a lot of hardships, heartbreak, pain, sometimes suffering. But as long as we are willing to be molded by the potter, we can always be turned into something beautiful, something useful, something to make the potter proud. So my advice and my prayer is that we always keep a soft heart that is able to be molded, that we never harden ourselves so much that all he can do is set us up on a shelf. A physical representation of stubbornness and a hard heart. Always be malleable. Always be able to be used. Be available. Be soft. Allow God to use us the way that he sees fit. We may want to be a vase that's going to hold beautiful flowers, but maybe that's not his intention. Maybe he needs a simple, not much to look at planter for a not so pretty plant. Whatever it is that he wants us to mold us into and make us into, our job is to be willing to be used by him for his purpose and for all of his glory. And trust me, it may not be a comfortable process, but when it's all said and done and we go through the kiln, we come out all the more beautiful because we're beautiful and useful in his eyes. And it doesn't matter what we want, because in the end, we turn out like he wants, and what we want tends to mold to how he wants. Usually if we go through the difficult things and we do yield to him, we find that our wants change. Our heart aligns with his heart. And our life turns out to be much better. It may not be glitzy or glamorous the way that we wanted it to be, but I promise in the end, you'll find satisfaction, deep satisfaction. Even if you're just a clay pot sitting in the corner somewhere, it's okay, because we're doing what the master wants. So that's all I had for today. I hope that you get something out of it, and I hope that you stay soft, stay malleable, and usable by the potter. See you next time. Bye.